Welcome back to Dynamics Unplugged. In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about scrap and the rounding up principles on your bill of material and formula lines. So let's get to it. We're going to take this batch order 502 on Drew's Gray IPA, which you can see right now is for 103 liters. And if I look at the formula for Drew's Gray IPA, it includes 5.3 pounds per liter of hops. And I'll click on that line so we can go ahead and take a look to see that there actually is scrap as well of 1.27 pounds per liter. So if we were to only make one liter of our Drew's Gray IPA, we'd have the 5.3 pounds plus another 1.27 pounds of constant scrap. If we were to make 500 liters, we'd have the 1.27 pounds of constant scrap for our hops. Now, that will affect the calculation, obviously, of consumption. So if I was making 100 liters of Drew's Gray IPA, I'd have my 530 pounds plus another 1.27 pounds of scrap. But when it comes to rounding up, this rounding up principle is really important. There's 4 settings that can apply. No, which never rounds up. You just always have the exact consumption of your quantity plus your constant or variable scrap. We have quantity-based consumption, which is going to round the consumption, but not, or sorry, the quantity, but not the constant scrap. So it's not the total consumption. It's really just rounding the quantity required and leaving the scrap as is. We have measurement-based rounding up, which comes into play when we're using the physical dimensions to determine consumption. And then we also have the consumption-based method, which is going to round both our scrap and our actual quantity. When we choose rounding up of quantity, you have to have a multiple. So I'm going to leave this here as 1. This means I'm always going to round our quantity. So we have 5.3 pounds, we have 1.27 pounds as our scrap. We're going to go ahead and estimate this batch order. We can see this one's for 50 units, so it's now estimated. And we'll go back into our formula. So 50 units times 5.3 plus our scrap, and we can see it has estimated 266.27 units. So 265 we get from our quantity times our amount, 5.3 times 50, and then 1.27 units of the constant scrap. If our scenario actually requires us to round to the nearest unit, the nearest 5, whatever it may be, based on the fact that our scrap leaves us to a decimal, but we always want to consume in full units, that's when we need to go ahead and edit our rounding up principle. This time I'm going to select consumption. I'm going to leave that as 1. It's going to ask me to re-estimate my batch order, which I'll go ahead and do. And now we should see that we no longer have that decimal hanging around. It rounds to 267. So it took our 265, it added in the scrap of 1.27 to get to 266.27, and then rounded that as well to the 265. If we wanted to round to an actual multiplier, so instead of go to 267, say go to 270, we can change the multiples as well. I'll re-estimate this work order. And we can see now it's estimated at 270 units. So there you have it. Make sure you are paying attention to which rounding principle you apply when you need to round your consumption and you also have scrap involved in your bill of material or formula lines.